5.6 equivalent inequalities. So we are going to have exactly the same steps as we were when we were doing solving equations. The difference is when we multiply or divide both sides of the inequality by a negative number, we want to remember to reverse the direction of the inequality symbol. So if our equation is -3 is less than 4, for example, would you agree that -3 is less than 4? Good. So if I was to take -3 and multiply it by 2, and take 4 and multiply it by 2, I would now have -6 compared to 8. Is -6 still smaller than 8? Yes. Now, the reason why we reverse the direction of the sign when we multiply by a negative, we can see here. If instead I had -3 times, instead of multiplying by a positive number on each side, let's try multiplying by a negative number. If I had it times -2, and I took 4 and I multiplied by -2, well, let's see. What's -3 times -2? Negative times negative is a positive, and 4 times -2 is -8. So, is this number still smaller than, less than -8? No. This is when the direction of the sign reverses. Number 1, f is greater than or equal to 7 times 23 minus 9. The f, the variable, is already by itself. All you need to do in this problem is simplify. I have f is greater than or equal to, let's see, 7 times 23 minus 9 is what, 14? And 7 times 14 is 70 plus 28 is 98. So f is less than or equal. Have I really been saying less than? Miss Nakamura. It is f is greater than or equal to 98. This problem we're actually going to solve like we would solve an equation. So I want to get the q by itself. So I like to build a fence and say the q is on the right side, so what do I need to do to get it by itself? Well, you have a -6 attached to it, so let's get rid of that term by adding 6, and that will create a 0, so I will be left with q, and -13 plus 6 is -7. Now, did I multiply or divide both sides by a negative? No. So I have -7 is less than q. Now, when the variable is on the right, I really like to see you guys write an equivalent inequality. So if -7 is less than q, it's hard to understand what a value of q would be. So instead, I'd like you to rewrite it as q compared to -7. Well, if -7 is less than q, then q is actually bigger than -7. Always, let's rewrite our variable on the left. Thanks. So here we go with a couple more examples. Number 3 gets a little trickier. -6 times a is less than 18. I want to get the a by itself. So I'm going to build my fence. -6 is attached to a by multiplication, so the inverse is division. We show division as a fraction. That simplifies down. I get a. 18 divided by -6 is -3. Wait a minute. I just divided both sides by a negative. So what is the other trick I need to make sure I do? And it is I need to make sure I change the direction of the sign from a less than to a greater than. And there's my answer. Number 4, I want to get the u by itself. It is on the right side of the equation. U is being divided by 3, so the inverse operation is to multiply by 3. And I like to see how it cross simplifies, so the 3's simplify to 1's. So I'm left with just a u, and on this side I have a -15. Now, I do have a negative in this problem, so do I change the direction? No. Why? Because I didn't multiply both sides by a negative. I just have a negative in the problem. So the rule is, if I multiplied both sides by a negative, then flip it. I did not. So -15 is less than or equal to u would be my answer. But remember, it's a lot easier to understand the values of the number if you put the u on the left. So u is actually greater than or equal to negative 15. Number 5. 4h minus 2h over 2. Well, can we simplify that? 4h minus 2h. If I have 4 hats and I subtract 2 hats, I'm left with 2 hats. So 2 hats over 2 is less than or equal to, well, what's negative 6 minus 5? So if I have negative 6 and I take away 5 more, I'm going to be at negative 11. Remember, you can always think of it as plus a negative. So what is this value? Actually, this just simplifies down to h, and it's less than or equal to negative 11. So I didn't even have to do anything to both sides of the equation. I just need to simplify the problem. Number 6. Here's p. It is on the left side. Attached to it is negative 1/2. So it's attached by multiplication, so I could divide by negative 1/2. Or, because it's difficult to divide by fractions, you multiply by the reciprocal. So the reciprocal of negative 1/2 is negative 2 over 1. Multiply this side by negative 2 over 1. The 2 simplify, the 1 simplify. This makes a positive, so